Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and Wargaming are running a special for the next 2 weeks where you can trade in vehicles that you find yourself no longer playing to be able to get half their value in gold off a discount of a vehicle that might be attractive for you. You can access this by going into the store and clicking the trade-in program, and then you're presented by being told that you take your premium tanks to be able to get a new premium tank for a significant discount. It estimates what the discount is going to be, which is going to be half the gold value of the vehicle that you're trading in to be able to get a meaty discount off a new vehicle. So you could go from a Lerva to an Object 7032. Interestingly enough as well, you can actually even trade in vehicles that you got as a reward. So for example, the T28 HTC, the tier 7 reward tank, is actually a 3,150 gold discount. So while, remember, this is an exclusive vehicle and you're never going to be able to get your hands on it again as it was a reward for the second season, you could get yourself a 3,150 gold discount off something like an ELC even 90 if you wanted to be a filthy bush jockey for only 2,650 gold. The real problem here is that you are only getting half the gold value of the vehicle that you trade in. So while the Renegade, according to Tanks GG, is worth 9,000 gold, as a trade-in price, you're only going to get 4,500. And so, while that can make a tank like a Basante significantly cheaper, at the end of the day, you are trading in one full tier 8 tank to effectively get a new one at half price. Now there's two ways of looking at this. One is that you're getting ripped off because you're only getting half the money back for something that you've purchased in the past, or second is the sunk cost fallacy. The idea that just because you've spent money on something in the past doesn't mean that either you're enjoying it now, maybe it was a mistake, there's something better, which means that you never want to play that vehicle. And unless you're a tank collector that just wants to have every single vehicle sitting in your garage, it's kind of just wasted money that you could be investing into something that you might enjoy now. But I think one of the cool things about this event is not trading in premium vehicles, but trading in reward vehicles that never made you extra credits in the first place. For example, something like a Super Hellcat, which is one of the rewards for playing the game for a long time. For quite a few people, it'll just sit in your garage, you won't play it. And again, unless you're a tank collector, it's very unlikely that it's going to be buffed in the future and become worth playing. Meaning that Super Hellcat that's valued at 2,900 gold could actually get you a 1,450 gold discount off something that you might enjoy more. On top of this, there are even vehicles that are now available inside the Bond store that you can trade in. For example, the KV5, which is worth 3,350 gold as a trade-in that you can purchase inside the Bond store for 8,000 bonds. And so, if you find yourself with a lot of bonds but not a lot of gold and really wanting one of the new picks, then that's a sneaky way to be able to access a meaty discount off a new tank. However, before all of you start jumping at the opportunity to only get half your money back for a vehicle, let me clarify a couple of things. Firstly, to all intents and purposes, those tanks in your garage that are gathering dust because either they're not competitive or they're not fun could be buffed in the future. There have been times when tanks like the IS-3A, for example, went from 0 to hero because Wargaming decided to give it an auto reloader, whereas previously it was just a single shot gun. So while I'm not suggesting that maybe something like an AMX-30 alt prototype is suddenly going to receive the biggest of all buffs, meaning it's the must-have premium tank, there is a chance that it could happen in the future. In addition to this, as you will have all seen over the last year, Wargaming are ramping up releasing tanks inside loot boxes. And so, accordingly, if you trade in some of those tier 8 premium tanks or even tier 9 premium tanks that you have, it might mean that you get them when you don't want them when you buy loot boxes in the future. Meaning that you have to spend more to be able to get the tanks that you actually want when you have immense disappointment and regret when, for example, the KV5 re-enters your garage after you've just traded it in to be able to get a Basante, for example. And so, with all of that said and done, now I'm going to give you very quick opinions on all of the vehicles that are available about whether I think that they're actually worth trying to get your hands on. So firstly, the German Lerva. This is an old, faithful tank. It's a great hull-down vehicle. It has a very dependable gun. The problem is that its side armor is a bit weak, its lower plate is tragic, and it just doesn't really have the damage per minute or the speed to keep up with a lot of other tanks. This is kind of like a German T-34 or Tornwagen, and while it's not bad, I probably wouldn't bother with it. The IS-6. This is a Soviet preferential matchmaking tank that never has to meet tier 10s. It used to be amazing when it was first released, but time has moved on and this vehicle has not. And preferential matchmaking just doesn't really mean what it meant back in the day when you're having to meet very competitive tier 8 tanks on the other team and you're not getting into those juicy tier 6 and tier 7 matchups where this tank thrives. Next, the AMX M449. It's the non-skinned version of the Liberté. This is a vehicle that's actually available in the Bond store, so I guess unless you really don't want to have a French flag all over your vehicle, then you might want to just save your money and pick it up there. Either way, this vehicle's alright. It's not bad frontally, and it does very, very well against a BZ176, as they just can't pen the front of your tank reliably at all. Next, the Basante. I love this tank. I think it's very underrated. I think it's one of the best vehicles that's on this list. I love it hold down, and if you're an excellent player, you do very well with this vehicle. If you like other Italian auto-reloaders, look no further than this vehicle. But also be warned, if you're a casual player and you don't know when is the right time to fire with an auto-reloader, this one might actually end up confusing you a little bit too much. Next, the Samoa SM. This thing's just a juggernaut. Great frontal armor, great gun depression, and a great gun. Just get yourself on a ridgeline or isolated opponent and have them cry as you do 1,500 damage. This is a great pick down this list. Next, the Stridsvagn S1. Just featured this on a YouTube video. Very dependable for the long-range player who never wants to load gold and always wants to hit their shots. It's definitely not going to be the best in the meta, especially with things feeling like it's getting faster and faster and faster. But again, if you're a good player and you know how to snipe, you'll do very well in this tank. Next, the Defender, the idiot-proof tank that just wants to keep its frontal armor towards opponents and just keep going. This is not a bad pick for anyone, and in fact, it's a very friendly pick if you're not the most confident player. The problem is the vehicle's gun is not reliable, not at all, in 2023. And as bigger and better tier 8 and tier 9 premiums go into the game, then this one is starting to look actually balanced in 2023. The 50 TP prototype is a vehicle that has 10 degrees of gun depression over the side, 8 degrees over the front. It's basically a Polish Defender. I'd say it's the harder of the two tanks to play when we compare it to the Object 252U. However, better players will actually do better in the 50 TP prototype because they'll gain from that extra flexibility that the vehicle has with a massive amount of gun depression enhancement. Next, the AMX CDA. This is kind of a bit of a nothing tank. It's okay at sniping and it does have armor that will confuse its opponents, but I really wouldn't bother too much with this. Next, the Knonen Jagdpanzer with 105. This is a fast vehicle. It's got a nice gun at long range, but it just doesn't really have the armor or the damage per minute to really intimidate its opponents, and I think there are better tanks that you can get your hand on. Next, the M4Y. This is Wargaming's ill-fated reserve track mechanic tank that is pretty much just a renegade that sacrifices a lot of the firepower to gain a little bit of the resilience. I wouldn't bother with the M4Y in my opinion. It's a very lackluster tank and I think there are better picks for you to get your hands on. Next, the Carnarvon Action 10. This is a solid pick for people who want to train their British heavy tank crews. Not bad at all, but again, I think there are probably better picks for you to be able to get your hands on at tier 8. But this is still a solid pick if you just want some hold down grindy tank. The 112. I think this is clinically underrated. I think it's a lovely vehicle. I really like the exaggerated lower plate on this tank and the preferential matchmaking, meaning you never have to meet tier 10s. I love this vehicle and I think it's one of the sleeper OP tanks at tier 8. Next, the WZ-121. This is just raw firepower with a good amount of mobility and a decent amount of armor. You really can't go wrong with this vehicle, and I hate playing against this thing because it's got the pen on its heat rounds to deal with me wherever I go, and it's got damage per minute, it's got mobility, it's got annoying armor. It's an annoying tank to play against if it didn't have so low hit points. Next, the TS5. I think this is the best tier 8 tank destroyer for anyone in the game. It's so easy to play. Just get yourself a gun rammer, durability, and a turbo. Hold down your mouse button and just hold down your W key. Hopefully, do it in the first order where you hold down your W key, then your mouse button when you see your opponents, and you will be making tons of credits. And inside a nice matchup, it's going to be completely overpowered. And even when it's not in a nice matchup, usually go in and do at least 2,000 damage before you go down because you've got a lot of hit points. Next, the Skoda T27. Wouldn't recommend this one at all unless you are absolutely, utterly wanting to train up a Czechoslovakian crew. Not a good vehicle. Next, the T26E5. This is a non-skid version of the Patriot. It doesn't hold up in 2023. And again, you can get the Patriot inside the bond store. So wouldn't recommend this one if you could just buy bonds instead of spending your hard-earned money. Next, the Turtle. It's an okay tank. It's more flexible than the TS5, but it's not going to do as well as the TS5. And it's not as easy as to play as the TS5. And I would recommend to pick up that one instead of this. The 122TM, I think this is an amazing tier 8 premium tank. Really good gun depression, really good armor, really good gun, just abysmal damage per minute. This thing isn't killing anything quickly, but it is going to do it very, very consistently and stay in the battle to be able to do that. So I recommend the 122TM highly. Chrysler, good at good at side scraping, but that's it. And horrible premium rounds. Wouldn't buy this one. It's a waste of space in my opinion. Canona, the Kampfpanzer 07RH. This is very good in the hands of a very good player, but it's not suitable for anyone else unless you have great gun handling, i.e. mouse control and your like keyboard control and everything. You've got intuition and a great crew. This will be an awful tank for the majority of players. Next up, the T54 Mod 1. If you'd asked me 6 years ago, yeah, now it's just so mediocre and I wouldn't recommend it compared to a lot of the other mediums. The VK7501, it's a great side scraper in certain situations with nice alpha. It's not bad, you're going to do well in it, but it's just got such a boring playstyle that really wants to play defensively rather than push. Next up, the VK503. This is a tier 7 premium tank. Again, no point in this. It's like a Tiger 2. It's like a stock Tiger 2 at tier 7. But there's now a captured King Tiger, which is just way better than it. CS52 Lease, this one's actually really good. Considering how cheap it is, this might be a real good one to pick up, especially if you're trying to train up your CS63 crew. There's not many other options. Next up, the Lanson C. This is my experience record before I got a new one in the Churchill. This is a great all-round, voracious, hold down, gun depression using monster. I think it's got really good damage per minute as well. I really enjoy some Lanson gameplay. There's the captured King Tiger. This is way better than the VK and it's even 200 gold cheaper. Get this one and don't get the VK. Next, the Rampanzer. Would avoid this. It's a bit of a meme tank, but it's a horrible, horrible vehicle. STA2, it's the only tier 8 Japanese premium, at least until the car went into the game. Wouldn't recommend this one for most players, but again, if you want to train up your SDB crew, you don't really have much choice. FE4202 used to be the tier 10. Now it's just pretty irrelevant inside the game. Wouldn't recommend it, but it's not bad. Centurion 5-1 is better than this. T103, it's okay, but again, it's available for bonds, so why not spend your bonds instead of your gold to be able to get your hands on this tank? It's an alright vehicle. It's basically the budget Scorpion. Next up, the Super Pershing, preferential matchmaking, decent vehicle. Will do well in quite a few players' hands, but again, you'd be an idiot to want to play this instead of the Iron Arnie in 2023. Next up, the M4A1 Revolurise. This vehicle is nice. It's nice. It's not bad if you're a decent player on a ridgeline. Use your gun depression. Use your great shell velocity. The problem is that you have to fire a lot of gold with this vehicle, which kind of defeats the point of playing a premium tank in the first place. SG-12244, a decent tank. Not OP by any means in 2023. But I guess in a nice matchup, it can actually do some really good stuff. The Eagle, this is like a Pershing that's down at tier 7. One of Wargaming's favorite things to do with their premium tanks is to take a tech tree tank, put it down a tier and make it premium. It's not good though. I wouldn't recommend this one. I think there are better vehicles. And tier 7 is such a nothing tier with regards to credit income. HWK30, this is actually very cheap, 5,800. It's not a bad tank at all. You could do very well with this as a light tank. It's got a nice gun. The problem is it's very big, which means that it doesn't scout very well. AT-15A, brilliant, bruising, British tank destroyer. The problem is that you're probably better to get the Turtle, and then you've got a much better credit income, and you won't have to fire nearly as much gold as you do in the AT-15A. Next, the Senlac. If you're a very good player, and you have a very good British medium tank crew, this one could be nice, especially if you get intuition on 2 of the 3 crew members, because then you're going to have access to the vehicle's wonderful HE rounds. But all in all, I wouldn't recommend the Senlac at all. Next, the ELC EVA 90. This vehicle is so overpowered. I hate this thing. I wish it didn't exist in the game. It's so small that they can hide in any kind of bush. So if you really want to be the ultimate lazy player, you could have an incredibly bad knowledge of the game, and all you have to do is set this thing up correctly, drive straight into a bush, no one will see you, and then you're basically going to get to just sit there. It's probably one of the most easy, disgusting ways to play World of Tanks. I think it's game breaking. I'd love Wargaming to destroy this vehicle with a passion. IS-2M, nothing heavy, don't bother. KV-122, nothing heavy, don't bother. Sternwaffenträger just doesn't really pack a punch. You'd be an idiot to play this instead of an E25. Panther M10, this is a fabulous tank. This is borderline OP. Has preferential matchmaking, so it never has to meet tier 9s. And it's just a great all-purpose vehicle. It'd be nicer if it was down at tier 6, but you get quite a lot of nice matchups with this thing. And you've got way more hit points than tier 6 tanks do. And you've got a lot of flexibility with how you set this thing up. IS-2, whatever, nothing heavy, don't bother with it. Scorpion, bit of a meme lord. Can do well, can be very sneaky, but just doesn't really have high enough damage. I end up firing a lot of gold in this vehicle. And outside of being sneaky on certain maps, it just feels a little too slow. FV201 would avoid completely. Get yourself the Carnarvon Action 10 instead. This one sucks. ISU-122S, it's kind of like an SU-152 that only uses the 122. It's got insane damage per minute, but that's it. Such a glass cannon. Really boring playstyle in my opinion. Wouldn't bother. Should go to T40. Whatever. Really wouldn't bother with this tank. It's okay, but maybe for grinding through the battle pass, but that's it. Sritzfang M4257, 4-round autoloader. Not bad, not good. Again, wouldn't really bother. Heavy tank number 6. This is a funny one because this vehicle is actually currently possible for all of my Twitch audience to be able to get completely for free. So, of course, why would I recommend you buying this for 3,300 gold when you could have got one for free from just using my codes and watching my stream for a couple of times over the last few weeks? T3485M, this is a powerhouse. It's a great pick for anyone. I'd say it's overpowered at tier 6, but I'd say that most people have already probably got it. Poodle, not bad, not good. It's so similar to all of the other tier 6 German mediums. AC4, experimental. It's a bit of a whatever British medium. Wouldn't bother with it too much. TOG, this is a must-have. It's the one, the only. I've given it away 2 times to everyone who watched my Twitch stream, but if you haven't bothered, then yeah, I'd recommend picking up the TOG for 3,100 gold. It's an absolute one of the most fun tanks you can play inside the game. And if you don't play well in the TOG, then come and watch someone who at least has a lot of fun, even though I don't play well in the TOG all that often. Type 64, this is an overpowered tier 6 light tank that will allow you to race through the battle pass and do quite a lot of missions very quickly. Completely overpowered tank. Would recommend it for everyone. SU-100Y, the box tank. High alpha, especially on its premium rounds. I wouldn't really recommend it though. The Dicamax, again, this is a funky tank with great gun depression that everyone who watched my Twitch stream this month has managed to get for free. So how could I recommend the Dicamax? At least with spending 2,800 gold when you could have got one for free. Next up, the Firefly VC. Again, a vehicle that people got off my Twitch stream last month for free. Incredible damage per minute. But that is about it. And this really brings me to my final point, that so many of these vehicles Wargaming have consistently given through the monthly Twitch drops, like Heavy Tank number 6, for example. I could trade that in right now on my free-to-play account for 1,650 discount off a Basante, which I could get for 8,550, which I'm still not going to do because I don't ever spend any money on my free-to-play account, but that is actually a very attractive price, considering that I'm very near to having all of the tokens that I need that I'm going to get through watching my own stream. I know, a bit cheating on my free-to-play account, to be able to buy it back again. So I expect that the amount of players who get the Dicamax are probably going to dwindle now that Wargaming have made this announcement. So as far as I'm aware, you will be able to trade in your Heavy Tank number 6 if you already have it in your garage to be able to get a discount. And then, once you've got the final few tokens from the monthly drop special, buy it again for free with your tokens. And so, ladies and gents, boys and girls, go into the game, play around, see what you have that maybe you have no interest in actually playing, and see if you can get yourself a great price for a new great toy. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video and maybe you found it useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know what you think about the trade-in store in the comments down below. Do you think there are any really good deals? Are you going to make any trades? Or do you think that it's wasted money on things that you've already spent for a full price? And if you're watching this video as it's released on Monday, I'm going to be going live giving new tokens out on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby via the drops, so you can get closer and actually get this week Heavy Tank number 6 or the Dickomax completely for free. So really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.